Hi everybody, it's Rebecca Virginia, and in today's video I'll be showing you some woodland Christmas DIYs that bring the outdoor snowy landscape into your home. The first DIY I will be sharing with you is a faux barnwood birdhouse. Here are all of the supplies you'll need to recreate this project. I'm starting off this DIY by taking my wood pieces from the Dollar Tree and painting them. I'm using the shade Territorial Beige by Apple Barrel. I'm using this wood arrow from the Dollar Tree, this wood cube kind of piece, and some tumbling tower blocks. Then to create the faux barnwood look, I am taking a stippling brush and some white paint and just messily creating some white dry brushing strokes. Once all of that paint has dried, it's time to start making this look a bit more like a birdhouse. So for the awning or the roof of a birdhouse, I am using the tumbling tower blocks and some hot glue to place that on the top section of our arrow. Now, this box from the Dollar Tree is purely going to be for holding up our birdhouse, so you could use a smaller base, maybe a couple tumbling tower blocks, whatever you want to hold up your birdhouse, or maybe if you know that you're going to be leaning this against a wall, then you wouldn't need that section at all. But now it's time to start embellishing. So first off, I had to make the hole for our birdhouse. So I'm using a couple different shades of paint, and then I went over it with a little bit of white paint. And to create the woodland effect, I am laying down some garland pieces from the Dollar Tree. Then I knotted twice a piece of burlap ribbon, and I'm just going to kind of messily place that over the garland. I kind of made a long X shape with the garland, but really it's up to you. You can make whatever shape or style that you want. I did have to trim some of these garland pieces because they were a little bit too long, and I wanted my birdhouse to be a little bit messy, but not too messy. It's truly a fine line between the both. For that bright pop of Christmas red, I added in a small cardinal and also a snowy pine cone. The last step was adding some snow onto my garland pieces. I did this with white paint and a paintbrush. This merry crate is the perfect way to bring some pops of green garland and candlelight into your home. Here's what you need to make it. In this DIY, I'm taking one of the plain wood crates from the Dollar Tree and painted it a dark brown color and then filled it with some floral foam. Yes, this is some old used floral foam that I've had throughout the years, but I wasn't using those projects anymore, so I repurposed the floral foam for this DIY. So you saw me just place down a candlestick. It's one of the emergency LED candlesticks from the Dollar Tree, and I had wrapped it in jute. And I am placing that in the center of this crate inside of this glass jar that I also got from the Dollar Tree. And the next part is completely up to you. I took some pine cones, red berries, and a bunch of these garland picks from the Dollar Tree. And I'm kind of just playing around with how I'm going to fill up my crate. It's really just a matter of preference. If you like more color, you can add in maybe some jingle bells or little Christmas ornament pieces. I kept it pretty neutral with the woodland theme, so just having things that pretty much occur in nature, so the holly berries and the pine cones. And at first I thought I added in too much garland, so you'll see me take it out, put it back, and I kind of go back and forth with how full I want this crate to be. And once I had everything inside my crate, I did add one extra little pine cone that didn't have snow on it, so I did add some white paint to that. For the final step in this DIY, I had some jingle bell garland from the Dollar Tree, so I just wrapped this around the glass section in the center of our crate, and I also took one of the merry wood ornaments from the Dollar Tree and lightly stained it and placed it at the front of the crate. Next up is this cozy looking candle that uses an old mitten. Here are the other supplies you'll need to complete this DIY on your own. This is a really quick and a really easy DIY, but I think it looks very high-end and like something you would find in Home Goods. So I am just taking this tall, super sparkly green candle and placing it inside of my mitten. This is one of those mittens that throughout the years I lost its mate, but I held on to because I thought I could use it for some sort of DIY. Then I scrunched down the mitten and it left some fuzzies on my candle, so that's why I got the lint roller and kind of fixed the candle. If your candle comes with a plastic on it, I would just leave it because it's not like we're going to light this candle anyway. It's just for decoration. And then super simple, I'm adding some garland that has a berry and a pine cone on it and just hot gluing that to the bottom left part of the candle. I had one of these icy twig pieces that I really liked too and thought kind of went with the sparkleness of the green candle, so I went ahead and hot glued that down onto the candle as well. And that's all that you need to do. It is so easy and requires very minimal effort, but I think the end result is so beautiful and looks great on the mantle. This faux book stack using a Dollar Tree crate will look perfect on a tiered tray or displayed on your mantle. Here's what you need to recreate it. For this DIY, I am taking the wood crate from the Dollar Tree and I painted it entirely in some white chalk paint. Now for each of the books, we're going to have a different scrapbooking paper. So for the middle one, I have this really beautiful Christmas plaid, and once I cut out the proper length, I then just started to rip and peel all along the edges all the way around so it looked like an old worn book. And to adhere this onto the wood crate, I just took a plain glue stick and glued it down that way instead of using hot glue. And I'm going to be repeating these steps 2 more times, but this time with this different kind of faux burlap scrapbooking paper. Again, cutting out the piece, and then once I have my desired length, I am just starting to rip all along the edges, not too much because I still want it to take up a good portion of, I believe it's a 1-inch slot in the wood crate. And then I am just going to be gluing that down, and I'm using the same burlap paper on the top and the bottom. To go on top of our faux book stack, I am going to take some scrapbooking paper and this wood Christmas tree ornament, and I just cut out some paper and then glued it down on top of it. And to make sure this can actually rest on top of our book stack, I also painted a small wood block. I will be adhering the tree to that in just a moment. I wanted my book stack to say something about Christmas. You can write on the faux book stack using a pen, a Sharpie, some of these rub-on letters from the Dollar Tree. I ended up finding this Fresh from Christmas Trees saying on Cricut Design Space, so I did cut that out using my cutting machine, but you don't need it. You can just take a Sharpie or a pen and write on the book stack. Next, I took some jute and just placed it around the faux book stack and tied it into a bow. Now that the wood block has dried, I will be adding that to my Christmas tree, but first I did take a wood star and some brown stain and added that on top of the tree ornament. Then once I have the wood block down, I can have it freestanding on top of the book stack. So I hot glued that down at a slight angle, and then to add a little bit more color and some Christmas spirit, I took some sprigs of this garland from the Dollar Tree, and I thought 2 was a little bit too much, so I ended up just using 1 sprig and a small pick of berries and hot gluing that down on top of the book stack as a final touch. The next DIY is a freestanding home decor piece using a Dollar Tree tree topper. Here's what you need to make it. To start off this DIY, I'm taking a tree topper from the Dollar Tree, and I'm only going to be using it for the star outline. So all of this ornate section in the center here, I am cutting out using regular scissors, and also the purple scissors are dog nail trimmers from the Dollar Tree. It works really great in cutting some harder to cut projects. In just a bit, we'll be placing our star down into some floral foam. But so that we have something to actually stick into the floral foam, I'm taking some hot glue and a wood dowel and just placing that inside of our star form. Now it's time to start really creating this freestanding star. So I am taking some garland, of course from the Dollar Tree, and hot gluing it all the way around the star. I ended up using 3 pieces of the Dollar Tree garland to complete the entire way around the star. To create the snowy look on our garlands, I'm using a chip brush and just some plain white paint and just going over the garland pretty messily and just putting some white paint on it so it starts to resemble some snow. To turn this into a freestanding decor piece, I'm taking one of these little boxes from the Dollar Tree. It has green and red sides with polka dots, and I placed some floral foam down in the center of it and stuck our star through. And I did take it out of the box while I was threading the lights through just because I kept toppling it over. But I'm taking this pair of copper wire lights. They are found in the floral section, usually at the Dollar Tree, and I really like the warm white light that this gives off. And I'm just wrapping this all the way around our star. And then once I've wrapped it all the way around the star, I am going to cut down the wood dowel even further using this pair of miter shears. And this way I will place the battery pack in the back of the floral foam. And when I place the star down on the wood dowel, you aren't going to see it anymore. You will only see the silver base of our tree topper. And then to hide the floral foam and the battery pack, I grab some of this fake snow blanket from the Dollar Tree, and I just wrapped it around the star and kind of tucked it around in places and cut off any excess. This is a quick and easy ornament DIY using a birdhouse from the Dollar Tree. Here are all of the supplies you'll need to recreate this project. This DIY is really quick and easy, and I think would be really fun to do with kids because until the very end, there isn't very much hot glue needed, so it is very kid-friendly. And I decided to make mine a snowy looking birdhouse, so it really did look like it was meant to be outdoors and was brought in on your tree. But especially if you have kids, you can give them lots of different colors of paints and have them paint their own Christmas birdhouse or just birdhouse in general. And to give mine a snowy effect, I sprayed some glue adhesive to the roof of my birdhouse and the front, and I'm taking some of this artificial snow from the Dollar Tree. Then once all my paint and snow was on, I added a couple of embellishments. So I took a bit of garland and this little berry pick, and I wanted to add some of that fake snow onto the greenery and berries as well. So I put some more of that spray adhesive onto that section, and then some of the snow that had fallen off the roof earlier and onto my table I was working on, I just picked up and placed down. And to turn this into an ornament, I just took some jute and made a very simple knot and added some hot glue to the back, and then it was ready to be hung on my Christmas tree. Next is a Christmas tree sign that you can change up with differing scrapbooking paper to fit the style of your home. Here's what you need to recreate it. The Dollar Tree throughout the seasons this year has come out with these signs in a couple of different scrapbooking paper backgrounds and sayings, but for this project we are not going to be using that. So I ended up just taking that apart in this really beautiful birch tree scrapbooking paper I cut out to size and then just glued it down before placing it back into our frame. I'm going to be using the Christmas tree wood ornaments for the Dollar Tree as the main focal point of this project. So I was just laying them out to make sure that all 3 of them fit. And then I looked through my scrapbooking papers. I had a lot that I really liked, but ended up going with these 3 different patterns, and I cut out and then glued down onto our wood ornaments. I also took a Mary ornament from the Dollar Tree and these wood stars and stained them in the Waverly wax in antique. And as a small final touch, I made a bow out of raffia and hot glued that to the side of our sign. This is a really quick and easy one, and you can use whatever scrapbooking paper you have laying around your house. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep searching, keep creating.